Things just got real as we have a major Marco Rossi report coming from Michael Russo indicating that one team, the Vancouver Canucks, are locked on to Marco Rossi. We have to talk about what this report is, the implications on the Wild going forward, and some other comments from Chris Johnston on the status of everything going on now. So we're getting closer to the day that Marco Rossi's decision is going to be made, and we're going to share it all with you in this episode of Wild Digest. But quick reminder, guys, 75% of you still not subscribed. We're getting so close to 2,000. Wanted to thank you guys sincerely for watching all these videos. You guys have been amazing. Thank you so much for the support. And hey, hit that free button if you haven't already, because we have content coming all off season long. Mark, before we get into the actual report from Russo and what was said, let's just dive into what Chris Johnston had to say. He said, look, there isn't a shared vision with the Wild of what his contract should look like. There is potential for an offer sheet. He is available for trade. So, I mean, like, this is more black and white than ever. Like, he straight up is. Could be an offer sheet, could be a trade. At this point, all paths are open for Rossi, and it's becoming more and more official as the days go by. Now, again, we're looking at the extension. We know the Flyers, they balked at it. They said, $7 million a year, what you're asking? I don't know about that. So they decided to re-sign Noah Cates to play center for them, and then they re-signed Tyson Forster. So they said, you know what, we're done with this. And other teams have been kicking the tires and stuff. But right now, Mark, it is a little bit of a shame because I know we talk about Rossi a lot. We talk about how much we want him to stay, but straight up hearing right now that there just isn't a shared vision. He is available for trade. It does kind of hurt, and I feel like at this point, any hope that I've had for Marco Rossi to stick around, and even you fans too, because I know a lot of you really like him, I feel like they're just gone.
Yeah, I mean, the writing's on the wall at this point. If it's going to be an offer sheet or a trade, it does seem like Rossi will be gone at some point within the next month or two. Going into next season, I mean, the big thing is Eriksson Ek, Yurov. These guys are going to play down the middle. Rossi is sliding down the lineup and signing a guy for the third line at 7x7 might not be the smartest decision financially. As much as we want Rossi to stay, Josh, it does seem like he's gone, and it does really suck, like you said.
I'm just... you know, when it comes to this, I still just really hope we can get a decent trade package out of it. And because, again, like, he's a 60-point guy. I don't know. I don't want to make the same arguments over and over and over. But, again, like I said, as the days go by, it's just becoming more black and white. We're hearing more teams saying they're interested. And right now, the recent report, there's been no team more interested than the Vancouver Canucks. And we'll just dive into that right now. And this has some big implications. We'll be diving into a lot of other interesting stuff right after this, including some potential trade packages. So make sure you stick around for that because I don't think you're going to want to miss it. But straight up, Michael Russo, quote, I definitely hear from really good sources that Vancouver really likes Marco and is very interested in Marco. Now, the Vancouver Canucks, it makes sense, right? They're a team that is looking for another center. They had some issues this year. Again, they had to ship out JT Miller, whatever. They still have Elias Pettersson, but they need some help down the middle. Filip Gustavsson, bit injury prone, of course. So a guy like Rossi could come in and play a very good role for them, put him with some decent scoring wingers. And Russo went on to say, does that mean a trade? Does that mean an offer sheet? One or the other? Who knows? And the Canucks are in an interesting position where they can't offer sheet Marco Rossi today. If you can see there, I mean, yeah, they can't at all because they don't have their own third-round pick this year. So, you know, they're not going to offer sheet Rossi for $4.7 million in that bottom tier. But if they want to go between that 4.7 and $7 million or above $7 million a year, they'll need their own second round or third-round pick back. But they can trade for that, right? Mark, when you're looking at the Vancouver Canucks and you're thinking about Marco Rossi, what comes to mind in terms of a return for you? And do you think this is a good fit for both teams in terms of a trade? And honestly, I kind of hope not an offer sheet because I hope we can get more than that in return for him.
I mean, the biggest thing is looking at the Canucks. If you follow along anything that happened during their season into the offseason, they've been desperately looking for that number two center. We've had reports coming out of Vancouver as far as the general manager saying that we're going to get a center. If it's a trade, it's going to happen. So Rossi makes total sense from that standpoint. The biggest thing with the Canucks, listen, you want Brock Besser in Minnesota. Maybe you send this guy over as a part of a package and a sign and trade. But the big thing is the Canucks have the 15th overall pick, which will definitely be the number one option to come back in this trade. But Josh, there's a lot of prospects, a lot of players that could come back. They're boatloaded with defensemen. I know the Wild. We don't need that at this moment, but the Canucks do have a lot of pieces. Jonathan Lekermacki is someone that the Wild could call on and probably should call on. But the biggest thing is, I don't know how hesitant the Canucks are going to be on doing this when if they go into the draft, they want to trade down, get their third back by moving out the third they have from San Jose. They could just throw an offer sheet without moving out one of their top prospects.
Yeah, like, it's an interesting spot for Vancouver because, again, they were so good just last year, but then this year fell off, missed the playoffs, and, again, had some internal struggles. Not going to dive too deep on that, but they're very much in a position where getting a guy who is young but also established is kind of an ideal world in my mind, right? Like, you get a young 23-year-old Rossi who's going to come in fresh off 60 points, and you have some good talent on that team that he can play with. Now, maybe no one Kaprizov level, but, you know, you never know. You can move stuff around, playing on the power play with Elias Pettersson if he gets back in form. You know, there's some good choices there. But again, like, if we're talking about a trade for the Minnesota Wild here, you know, yeah, the 15th overall pick is good, and, like, you know, an offer sheet, a first, second, and a third, or just a first and a third is fine, but again, Mark, like, I feel like I want more than that. And if I look at the list of Canucks prospects, if I'm Bill Guerin, if I'm Minnesota, I want to take one of these guys, right? I want to take one of these guys along with draft picks. Now, we'll get to Boeser in a minute, because I actually think your point on a sign and trade maybe deserves a little bit of extra talk, and I think some of the fans might like that too, but, like, I don't know. I feel like the Karamaki makes sense. He's not a center to come in and replace Rossi, but with Yurov coming in and the Wild making it very clear that Yurov's goal is to play, I'll get to Boeser later. Yurov's goal is to play center with this team like we have here. Could he come in and play 2C right away? It's kind of a high-pressure environment for a team that we want to start winning very much again right now, next year, be even better. So, I don't know, like, to me, Karamaki's a great player, a good guy to target, but other than that, like, Willander and Pettersson are great, but they're defensemen, which we don't need. I'm just not sure I'm sold on a fit for the Canucks being trade partners, which is why I almost think that, like, an offer sheet coming from them or another team, if the Wild don't get a trade done before July 1st, now, Bill has said he would not mind getting a trade done even before the draft. He's, you know, he can do it as soon as he wants. I'm not sold that there's actually a fit here for something that Vancouver could give Minnesota that would entice Bill to ship out Marco.
I mean, that's the biggest thing. Looking at the prospects, as you said, this whole list here is just basically filled with defensemen. You can walk Tom Willander, DPD, these guys going down, Elias Pettersson, the defenseman, of course. But all these guys right here, a lot of them are defensemen, and us as Wild fans do not need more defensemen. On this roster, there's already a logjam going to be happening next season with Bogosian, trying to get Juracek in. But the big thing is they have a couple key guys there. Maybe you go out to get maybe Aturatu to fill into the middle six of this team. More center depth is probably not what you need, but I do think the Canucks are desperate enough to go out and make a trade where maybe they overpay a bit. They need a center. We see Hedl, they with the Vancouver Canucks go down with an injury and the uncertain on if he's going to start the season with them. So, Josh, there is a world, and I kind of want your opinion on it. Could you see the Canucks almost looking at this and saying, hey, we're worried another team might offer sheet him. Why don't we just do a little bit of an overpay on the offer sheet to get Rossi into Vancouver?
If they're genuinely interested, I think that would kind of be ideal, right? I mean, driving up the price for Rossi via a bidding war, or at least having teams really want him and wanting to overpay to get him from another team, I think that's exactly what the Wild would want. The question is, would Bill Guerin accept it, right? Like, what is an overpay from the Canucks side? Like, would it include a bunch of extra futures? Is that something Bill is willing to do? I think there is always a point where, hey, like, even if it is just futures and you're not looking for futures, you know, maybe you can get an established talent. Again, maybe a Hedl, but he's injury prone. I don't think he really fits what Bill Guerin's looking for. At some point, though, if you get enough assets back, you accept the deal and then flip them for something else. Like, that's something that happens around the league all the time. But I wanted to revisit the thing you mentioned earlier in Brock Boeser. Now, again, Boeser has been linked to Minnesota a bit. Now, there is no official report on this. This is just something that we wanted to have fun with and get your opinion on as well. Look, Brock Boeser, again, he's an unrestricted free agent. I mean, he's from Burnsville, Minnesota. There's been some sort of reports that he has been there golfing. I don't know if that's even true. I mean, he's probably been in Minnesota recently, but, you know, there's been a lot of talk of the Wild going after him and signing him. Now, the Wild can only give him 7 years as an unrestricted free agent, and that's probably what they'd offer him if we want to bring him in. However, in a sign and trade, you can give him that extra year because it'd be the Canucks, technically, who are signing him to that contract, so you can get that extra year for the 8th year. It's better for Boeser. You know, it gives Minnesota an extra little bit of security over Boeser, even though you'd be signing him until he's like 36 years old. I don't think this would be considered like a big asset in a trade, because a lot of time trading for unrestricted free agent rights, even in sign and trades, like, you don't really generally pay a lot for that, and I think that'd just be kind of an extra asset. But I like that idea, Mark, that maybe if Minnesota is dead set on Boeser and they can make a deal work around Rossi for Boeser's rights on an 8-year extension, plus maybe a roster player and a few extra picks, I actually don't totally mind the framework of that deal, provided that the Rossi assets, excluding Boeser, is enough.
I mean, the biggest thing is Brock coming into this roster, a playoff performer. This is what we need as Wild fans. A guy that can come in, jump in the top six as an immediate goal scorer. We've seen him last year playing with an actual center in JT Miller, putting up 40 goals. We could see Brock Besser coming in, joining the second line. Playing with Yurov would be quite exciting to see on this Wild team. But the big thing is, and I think a lot of people might not look at it this way, when signing Besser to a 7-year extension, say you're going to pay the money that most teams would pay for 7. If you add that extra eighth year, you could drop the AAV. We see the cap going up. It's almost going up to 100 million over the next few years. It actually might hit that. So getting the extra AAV drop with the contract and next year, yes, when Besser's 36, he might not be the best. It might be in the situation where he's too old to play. But at the moment, you get a lower AAV, you can spend more money, relocate that around to other players. I think there's some hidden value in that as well.
Yeah, I think you're right. And again, I don't think that's necessarily likely, but again, it just makes sense. The Canucks have a UFA that the Wild have expressed some interest in. We've heard some reports, and the Wild have a restricted free agent that the Canucks are interested in. And doing some kind of framework around that is really not impossible. But what do you guys think? Is that something you would like, you wouldn't like? We'd love to hear from you down below, because that'll do it for this episode of Wild Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Thank you for tuning in every single day. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host, Mark Pye. We'll catch you in the next one.